Hello and welcome to Join the Journey, the talk show that talks about the supports and services provided by Journey Found. We serve adults with intellectual disabilities, autism, and other disabilities in northeastern and southeastern Connecticut. And today we're going to focus on the story of Journey Found. We believe we can best tell you about us through our stories, about our people, our staff, and our founders. And today we're going to be meeting with one of our founders. But before that, I just wanted to preface it by saying prior to 2013, we had been part of a much larger agency. And in February of 2013, they told us they would no longer be doing services in Connecticut, which caused a lot of panic for the 51 people being supported, their families, and our 192 staff. If it weren't for a group of 6 courageous parents, our services might have ended, and the agency certainly would not be what it is today. So with me today is our founding president, Tom Dembik. Tom is a parent of somebody we support, our founding president, and one of the folks that signed our Articles of Incorporation. So thank you for being here, Tom.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Before we talk about Journey Found, tell us a little bit about JP, your son, and JP's needs.
Sure. JP is the youngest of our 3 children that we have. He's not a little kid anymore. He's 45 years old. But we knew early on that there were some issues with JP, with his behaviors and his inabilities to concentrate and do things. As it turned out, he has a seizure disability. He has a Lennox-Gastaut symptom, which we had no idea what that was until it was explained to us. And so it's difficult to direct him, and his behaviors caused a lot of grief and so on when he was young, living at home with us. And we were fortunate enough when he was like around 10 or 11 years old to be able to put him in a place where he could be better cared for. And so he's been bouncing around through different organizations, and then the May Institute had a home for him. And of course we were in shock when we got that letter in 2013 that May was going to close down. So it was a real challenge to start an organization like Journey Found, and we're so glad that we've done it, because the care that Journey Found has provided for him has been tremendous. And just like our mission statement says, we're going to try to do everything we can to help these people become all that they are capable of being. He's making some progress. You know, it's limited, not like some of the other ones that we've seen, but we're happy that he's with Journey Found, and the staff that we have to work with him is commensurate. I mean, they're just terrific.
Great. So, you know, going back to the spring of 2013, you and Mrs. Dembik, Mary Lou, were among the 6 folks that said, yes, we have no idea what we're doing, but we'll do it. We'll form a corporation to take over the services that were being basically given back to the state of Connecticut. Why? What was it that made you decide that you were going to step forward and be part of that?
Well, the reality was, what options were there? The options were we were going to have to find another place for JP. The staff that had been working with him under May was going to be dismantled, and the state helped us make a decision to start our own organization. And it just made common sense, because when you think of the disabled people, the last thing they need is changes in their lifestyle. And so to put them in a different group home, to put him into an environment where he had no idea who the people were that were going to take care of him, it didn't make any sense. So the logical thing to do was to fund our own organization, create Journey Found. The state was very helpful with that. You were very helpful with that. And we're very pleased of it. When you look at where we were then and where we are now, I mean, how many staff members we have? We went from 192 to what, 275 or
277, I think, at the last count, and 81 people being supported.
Yeah, it's 30 more than we had way back then. So it's a tremendous thing. And you know, there are a lot of different organizations out there that take care of disabled people, but I think the real thing that separates Journey Found from other organizations is our people-centered program that we have. Because many people are looking for help with a disabled person. And when you go to different organizations, those organizations say, well, this is what we do. We can provide this service, that service, and so on. And if that person doesn't fit that, sorry, you have to find something else. And I think that's one of the things that separates Journey Found from the other organizations by a big amount. I'm deeply involved in fundraising for Journey Found because of the financial situation that we're being faced with. And when I explain that to potential donors, I mean, it's just an eye-opener for them. And they're willing to donate more than I would have even expected from them. So I can't imagine, you know, what else could we do to improve the lot of these people? You know, we're not doctors, or we're not clergymen that can pray to God and all of a sudden there's going to be a miracle and this loved one is going to become a normal person instead of what they're faced with. All we can do is do our best, and I think that's what Journey Found does, and we're thrilled.
And I think, you know, JP is a great example of the lifetime commitment that we make to the people that we have, you know, because JP has gone from having originally been in a group home to being in an apartment to being in a second location when the apartment didn't work out. And now we continue to support him even though he's in long-term care currently.
Correct.
And we go in, and Laverne does a marvelous job going in and helping him participate in the activities. At the Hospital for Special Care where he currently lives, and we plan on, you know, continuing to support him throughout his days.
Sure.
And doing those kinds of things. One of the things that really struck me, you know, in the beginning about you and the other 5 founders, you know, the commitment, the dedication, not knowing. But you know, what a lot of people don't realize, I mean, that was every week. It wasn't a board that, you know, it wasn't a board that met, you know, once a month or every other month or once a quarter. I mean, it was every single week. So,
right.
Talk to me a little bit, and so that everyone else can hear about really, you know, what had to happen during those times. And it's also important for people to know we had to be incorporated 6 weeks before we needed to take over contracts and services, and our incorporation date was May 16th of 2013. So we built an entire nonprofit organization in 6 weeks. But talk a little bit from the parent and founder perspective of what that spring was like.
Well, it was a challenge because, you know, none of us I don't think any of the 6 of us had ever created an organization of a substance like this. And so the good news was that the state provided us with some retired people that had experience in that sort of a thing to coach us in what we needed to do. And you're right, it was like, I forget, every Wednesday or every Thursday we met, and DDS was there at a number of these things and guiding us into how to establish this, because it's just, this wasn't going to be a club. We had to generate and follow the rules to create an organization that met all the criteria in order to do what exactly that we do. And so it was an eye-opener for everybody that was there. We were all concerned that we would do this correctly so as to be able to continue the services that the disabled people deserved and expected, and what the parents expected to do. So we were fortunate that it wasn't just Mary Lou and I, but we also had the other people there. And we all were in the same boat, you know, and trying to make this work. Without giving in a lot more details, you know, it wasn't like we would say, oh my God, we got to go to the meeting again. No, it was like we have to go to the meeting in order to make this thing come to fruition, which was a real achievement at that time.
Right. And talk a little bit more about why it was so very important that, you know, to you and Mary Lou, that JP stay with the people who he had been with, because usually when this happens, and you know what happens is the state would put out a request for proposal, and this home might go here and that home might go there, and there may not be a guarantee that all of the staff would stay with the people that they were supporting. So there's not a lot of job security for the staff. There's not a lot of stability necessarily for the people being supported. So what was it that was made it so important for you to make sure that happened for JP?
Well, one needs to understand that these disabled people are not flexible. You know, they are what they require from as a service, not everyone of the staff potentially has the ability to do those things. And so for having JP and some of the other disabled people that we were working with, to just throw them into some other environment with other staff that doesn't understand what motivates them, how to react to their behaviors that they have. The key thing was that he would be with the same staff that he had when the May was taking care of him, and that was priority number one. Right. I mean, you think about it, as a parent and as a founder, why would you do any of this? Because you love the one that's disabled, and you want to do what's best for them. So to throw them into the street or to put them in another group home where the people don't know them, that wasn't even a possibility. We had to focus in on what was best for him. Right. And that was true of the other 5 people there with their loved ones. I think they all felt that same way.
Right. Well, and if I'm remembering correctly, and I believe it's true for the other founders as well, there weren't a whole lot of agencies that were willing or able to work with JP when he first came into care, with us prior, when we were the old Connecticut division, and also
Sure.
as Journey found there, his disabilities are pretty unique and very challenging, and it wasn't going to be easy, even had you wanted to make it. There weren't going to be a significant number of people out there saying that they were going to be able to take JP on.
Well, but prior to JP becoming part of the May Institute and then subsequently Journey Found, he had been in, gosh, I couldn't tell you, Mary Lou would know better than I, 4, 5, or 6 different places. Yeah. And over a period of time, his behaviors would change, and all of a sudden they realized that they couldn't take care of him. He was a problem for them, or right. He didn't fit what they could offer to him. And so it was so important that that was really the key thing. At one point, he was in Pennsylvania for almost a year. And, talk about going to see him and all that. I mean, that was a terrible travel back and forth just to see our loved one. And, so it was important that we keep him close to us and then have him get the correct services that will improve his lot in life.
Right. And JP has a brother and a sister as well. You have 2 other children.
Yeah, well, the other dimension there was interesting because of the other the behaviors of JP as a little guy. Our 2 older children are special ed teachers. They both have master's degrees, and that's what they do. They deal with disabled people. Our son, our oldest one, he works at River Street School, and he deals with severely handicapped people. Yeah. And Mary Kate, our daughter, is working at Buckley High School, and she's got a classroom filled of disabled people that are being paid for by the school, but and that kind of thing. So they had a leg up, if you want to call it, on that with other people because of their experience with John. And, it's really hard to communicate to some people that have no idea of what it's like to have a disabled person like that in your family, because it can be very disabling for the family to function. It's just a terrible situation.
Well, and without the right supports and services, you're right, the whole family could in fact become disabled and do that. But it sounds like what has happened in your family, it's actually, JP has changed the course of people's lives in actually very great and productive ways. And it's led the charge for that. And certainly we've been very appreciative of all that you and Mary Lou have done. And you came on board, and the original board was the 6 founding parents, but we expanded beyond that. We added a person that we support, and people from the business community, and from other types of services, bankers, attorneys, in doing those. And some of what I really admire about what you and the founders did was recognizing what you didn't know about being a nonprofit, and the work you've done on learning how to be a board, how to fundraise, how to support the staff without trying to run the agency because you have staff to do that. And one of the things I think that you should be proudest of I know something I'm very proud of, is the fact that during that whole tumultuous time from February 2013 until we opened the doors as Journey Found July 1st, we did not lose a single one of those 192 staff people. They all stayed and had that level of dedication to JP and the 50 other people being supported at the time to stay.
Sure.
And what did that mean to you when that happened? I know I tell the story at every new hire and I cry every time when I tell it. But what was it like for you as a parent and a founder to have that happen?
Well, it demonstrates that the staff that we had and that they came to work for Journey Found really were involved in it. This wasn't just a job for these people. The ones that were working with JP and with the other disabled people, they love their work. It isn't a job where they're going to make a lot of money. There's a dimension there that those people want to work with these disabled people because for whatever their reason is, it gives them satisfaction, like they're helping other people that need the help. And so to see that that took place, as opposed to just going to the computer and putting ads in the paper and say we need help here and looking for new people, the experience just constituted the continuity, if you will, between what we had before we got the letter from May to what we were doing. And so that made our lives easier as parents and as well as for brothers and sisters. And it also made JP's life more the way that it should be. And that, so it was a huge dimension.
Right.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I can't imagine what we would have done without doing this. We'd have taken all those 51 people and figured out a place to put them, and that would have been a disaster. I mean, it'd have been a bigger problem for the state to try to accommodate them. So it was it made a lot more sense to provide the same continuity.
Yeah, one of the ways I always term it when I'm talking, talking about that whole transition, and it really was a great example of how a public-private partnership can work well. The people in place, at the Department of Developmental Services at the time, and the founders and the staff, really came together in a real partnership to make this work. So it's proof that that can work. At times, it's proof that a small group of people can pull off magnificent things when they're all pulling in the same direction at the same time, and gave us a really good foundation, I think, to build and continue in the person-centered direction that you talked about before. And you talked about how important it was because you love JP and the other parents love their children. Well, I want my staff to love them too, and that's one of the things I tell them. During our new hire is that I want you to have that same commitment and dedication as the 192 people who stayed, and I want you to love our people because we love our people. And when that's at the bottom.